little wrap-up video for Riley. Excuse the mess, it got really windy and rainy out as we were walking over. So this week has really been about creating an association to the different markers that I'm going to use for training. It's not super exciting, but it's something that I do take the time to establish so that it helps training further. And I've just found that once I create those associations, everything else just follows in suit. So, excuse you. A marker is going to be a word that marks a moment in time that we either like or dislike something. So those markers are going to announce the arrival of a reinforcer. Riley, yes. Or if we dislike it, it's going to announce the arrival of potential pressure. So we have yes, good, and okay as far as reward markers go. Yes is going to be a terminal marker that always announces the arrival of food every time. So when you do something that I like, sit, yes, it means the behavior is over, come take a reinforcement from me. And I can play around with that to make it more exciting than just smashing food into his face. And just increase the prey drive that he naturally has. So it ups the value of whatever we have to offer. Good and okay are going to be our duration markers. So sit, good is implying that I want him to continue to do that, and I'm going to bring the reinforcement to him, good, and I'm going to pay him in behavior for as long as good, good, as long as I want him to be in behavior. Okay is going to be that terminal marker, meaning the behavior is over. Typically, I'm not really paying him to come out of behavior. I'm just letting him know that he's done with doing what I was asking him to do. And then you heard me throw in that no there. So sit, good. When he popped up out of his sit, I just told him no, put him back into a sit, and then good, continued to pay him. Right now, I'm paying him for pretty much everything that he does. Okay, excuse me. And then eventually, I'll start weaning that off and withholding food and chaining behaviors together to kind of build motivation for him to try harder in the absence of food. At home, something that I always like to encourage as a practice for this first week is utilizing especially that yes marker to build engagement. That's the main reason I use it. I use the yes marker to build engagement, to shape new behaviors, and to help dogs work through the presence of potential triggers and things like that to create new associations. So have them on leash, start in an environment that is relatively neutral. So I've been doing mostly everything in the training room, a little bit out in the front of the property. You could do it in your kitchen, in your living room, even in the backyard if he's not super checked out. Essentially, you want to set him up for success. We're not going to start, we're not going to ask for these things out on like a busy walk just yet, because he's going to be so motivated by his environment that he's not going to organically check it. So yes, every time he pays attention, you're just going to move around. Hopefully my camera's following me. We're going to move around, and every time he looks up at me, yes, I'm going to pay him to put value in me as his handler. Yes, I want him to find value in me, and then I can translate that into different environments to build motivation and engagement, and that's going to make further training so much easier. Instead of us just being fence posts that are holding the innovation, he's finding everything in his environment to be a novelty. I think that's the first mistake that everyone makes, is we go somewhere and we let our dog sniff and do all these other things, yada yada yada, and the dog has zero interest in the owner because we're old news. We're with them all the time, and everything else is so much more new and exciting. Next week we'll get a little bit more into establishing boundaries, advocating for space, teaching him how to respond to different pressures and things like that. He's kind of an aloof guy. I wanted to really play around with motivation before I got into the other stuff, just because he hasn't been super rude or pushy with me. I do have another video of him getting into the car. I just essentially gave him a running start, and he was like, all right, I'll get right in. If you have any questions, do not hesitate to reach out. I'm happy to answer any of those. I know it's not a super exciting video. He's doing really well. We're playing around with commands. I'm not going to go over them just yet. I want to make sure that he's really consistently showing me things before I go over the actual words that I'm using. So hold out for that. Hey. Oh, one more thing. Out is what, yeah, buddy, good boy, is what I'm using to advocate for space. We're establishing that now because of his jumping. for me, just creating that muscle memory from moving away.